Welcome back. At this moment, Sean Diddy Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, is being cross-examined by his legal team for a second day. As you may know, the singer, who is pregnant, has been testifying since Tuesday, but the judge said that ends today unless lawyers have a compelling reason to make her continue. CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman is outside the federal courthouse in Manhattan this morning. She's been following this trial all week. Katrina, I know that proceedings just got underway in this last hour or so, so bring us up to speed on what's happening.
Yeah, Sam, good morning. Day 4 of Sean Combs' racketeering and sex trafficking trial is now underway, and that's with cross-examination from the defense. Ultimately, the jury will have an opportunity to hear another line of questioning from Sean Combs' lawyers, as well as to hear her responses. Already a busy day outside of the courthouse. Let's get straight to some video right now, and that's as Combs' family had arrived, which included Sean Combs' mother, Miss Combs, as well as his children, Quincy, Justin, and King Combs. Now, noticeably missing were his 3 daughters. Cassie Ventura's husband, Alex Fine, also hustled into the courthouse and did not answer any of the questions that I asked as he walked inside. And this is all ahead of his wife's cross-examination. Some key moments from yesterday during her testimony were her identifying over a dozen escorts that she had made contact with for Combs that had participated in various sexual encounters in cities from LA, Miami, here in the city, and Vegas.
Good morning, Errol. So, yes, they're just getting into the cross-examination with Sean Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. This is expected to last through the end of the day. The defense has been told that they really need to get this witness off the stand. The prosecution has pressed the fact that she is very pregnant. It's hard to emphasize just how pregnant she looks on that stand, Errol. 8.5 months as she testifies about this very, very graphic
Hollywood's biggest scandal just got even bigger. Sean Diddy Combs, one of the most powerful figures in music and business, is facing explosive allegations of racketeering and sex trafficking. And now, the star witness, Cassie Ventura, is back on the stand, revealing jaw-dropping details about their private relationship that could change everything. What really happened behind closed doors over those 11 years? And how will the defense try to unravel her story? Stay tuned as we break down every shocking moment from the courtroom, exclusive clips, and expert insights that you won't see anywhere else.
Aggressively assaulting Cassie Ventura in it. During this morning, they were asking her about how intoxicated he seemed. They said that she had said he seemed blackout drunk on the drugs and the alcohol they had. She said that people have different definitions of blackout, but what we seem to be seeing the defense trying to establish here from both sides is state of mind, and that they were both on a lot of drugs during this period. Yesterday, they got into Cassie's drug use. She has admitted on the stand that she was addicted to opiates. They are also trying to show warm exchanges between the two, and ones where she even showed potential excitement about these freak-offs they engaged in, these sort of drug-fueled sex acts that he directed her in. So we see them trying.
The courtroom in New York is buzzing as Cassie Ventura, Combs' former girlfriend, takes the stand under intense cross-examination. Over the past week, she's laid bare a complex, often painful history, describing a relationship marked by love, power, and alleged abuse. Today, the defense is pushing back hard, trying to cast doubt on her story. Let's dive into what we've learned so far.
And that was a family friend to Combs who has been inside of the courtroom, and he tells me that he's been talking with Sean Combs quite frequently. Now, cross-examination is expected to last all of today into tomorrow. Prosecutors have asked the judge for this process to end by the end of the week, as they say Cassie is very pregnant and could go into labor at some point. Now, we also do know that the defense is saying that Cassie Ventura was capable. They say that she chose to stay. Again, Combs has pled not guilty to all of the charges that he faced that could leave him behind bars for the rest of his life. We are live outside of the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. I'm Phil Tate, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Cassie alleges she was coerced into freak-offs, sexual encounters involving third parties, and at times felt threatened and scared. But the defense argues these were consensual moments in a complicated relationship. One of the defense's strongest tactics, highlighting text messages between Cassie and Diddy that suggest intimacy, affection, and apparent willingness. Texts like, "I love free gifts when we both want them," have jurors questioning the prosecution's narrative. But as legal expert Areva Martin points out, consent is complicated. Just because Cassie once expressed love or agreed to certain acts doesn't mean she wasn't later coerced or threatened.
And for the love that was in this relationship to counter the prosecution's case.
And so, Katrina, as we head to the end of the week, if you're a member of this jury, what impression would you have likely received from this first week of testimony from Cassie and the defense trying to cross-examine her?
Errol, that's a great question. One thing that I would say is I've been very impressed by the way that Cassie Ventura has composed herself on the stand. She's been talking about very, very difficult testimony, very graphic, very pornographic, very violent testimony about her experience with Sean Combs. But I'd say that she's really handled it with grace and seems like someone who has really reflected on those experiences. During the defense's cross, she's also come off very well. She seems extremely well prepared, Errol, and hasn't really been shaken at all.
These messages reveal a relationship where love and control were entangled, and jurors are left to decide, was Cassie truly a willing participant, or was she trapped by fear? The defense is methodically dismantling Cassie's direct testimony, focusing on early consensual moments and portraying her as an independent woman who made her own choices. They highlight that Cassie stayed in the relationship and even profited, revealing a $20 million settlement, painting her as motivated by money and perks.
First day of testimony, she broke down crying on the stand a number of times. So I'd say she's been a very sympathetic witness. In terms of the strength of the case, it's really too early to say. The prosecution has absolutely laid the building blocks of their charges. And, so far the defense is making some case to counter aspects of it, but we really still need to see how this all comes together, and we'll need to see many more witnesses' testimony to see if the prosecution can really prove this to that jury. But they have been absolutely riveted by the testimony. They are watching intently. They are taking notes, and this has to be a very fascinating and difficult trial to be a part of.
Yeah, and now that jury goes into the weekend with this emotional imprint. So definitely a standout start for the prosecution. Katrina Kaufman with us there just outside the courthouse here in Manhattan. Katrina, thank you.
But as the prosecution will argue in redirect, the money doesn't erase the violence, the threats, and the fear that Cassie says she endured. Jurors must wrestle with two conflicting portraits, a willing participant or a victim silenced by power and abuse. At the heart of this case is Cassie Ventura's story, a story of love, regret, fear, and survival. The jury must decide whether her consent was real or a mask worn under threat of violence. We see her torn between wanting intimacy and feeling trapped, as revealed in text describing dirty and grimy feelings after freak-offs.
Areva, what do you make of the judge here weighing in on the timing? Because the defense, as our recent reporting indicated, had wanted to go at least through the end of tomorrow evening. I wonder if you think the judge is going to press for them to speed things up here, and that might affect their strategy.
Absolutely, Boris. The judge has said from the beginning of this trial that it was going to be an efficient trial, and he was going to do his best to keep it around 6 to 8 weeks. He has said he'll give the defense until tomorrow afternoon with their cross-examination, and any time after that will be at his discretion. Oftentimes, these examinations, Boris, start to become repetitive, and the judge is going to assess whether tomorrow afternoon, if he believes the questioning is indeed repetitive, if he believes enough information, or if the defense has been given ample time to make their case. So it's always that balance between giving each party, each side, an opportunity to make their case, but at the same time, keeping the trial moving so that jurors, that's the big issue here, is keeping these jurors engaged.
For what reason would the judge grant going beyond lunchtime tomorrow?
I think, Brianna, if he believes that the defense has new material, if there are questions that have not been asked before today or tomorrow morning, if the judge believes that the defense makes a credible argument as to why they need more time. Judges are often persuaded by arguments from the lawyers that there's a particular area of questioning that they want to go into that they haven't gone into before. and that is essential to them making their case.
The prosecution will seek to rehabilitate Cassie's testimony, emphasizing the violence and coercion that emerged over time. Meanwhile, the defense wants the jury to focus on her agency and early willingness. This clash defines the trial's emotional core. The trial is set to continue with the prosecution's redirect of Cassie Ventura. Will they successfully connect the dots between early consent and later coercion? The judge is also pushing for a swift trial, limiting defense. Time to question the key witness, signaling the pressure to keep things moving.
When it comes to some of these text messages exchanged between the two of them, Mariva, I wonder what you make of them highlighting moments where there was some emotion exchange between the two of them. Cassie talking about how much she loved Combs, that she wanted more time with him, more intimacy together, and Combs apparently at times reciprocating that.
Well, we know from Cassie's testimony yesterday that she said she was in love with him, that she had really strong feelings for him. And a big part of what the defense, again, is trying to make the case for is that these text messages are evidence of a couple that were in love, that chose to bring third parties into their sexual relationship, and that at all times Cassie was a willing participant. But again, trials are marathons. So good day for the prosecution yesterday. Some may say a good day for the defense so far today, because they are establishing that at least in the early stages of the relationship, there appears to have been some form of consent.
As Cassie steps back onto the stand, all eyes are on her. The prosecution wastes no time, painting a vivid picture of how charm slowly turned into control, how privilege became a weapon. They present new messages, diary entries, and witness accounts to underscore a pattern. What looked like consent may have masked fear. But the defense isn't backing down. They argue Cassie had autonomy, that she made choices, even if those choices are now painful in hindsight. They question her timeline, her memory, and her motives. It's a strategy that walks a fine line between skepticism and victim blaming, and the courtroom feels the tension.
I want to get to some of the latest details that we've gotten from the courtroom, specifically some of the text messages that have been exchanged between Cassie Ventura and Combs, and specifically the defense asking Cassie Ventura about a conversation in March 2017 when Ventura told Combs to essentially stop playing the victim, saying that she loves freak-offs when we both want them. And then she was asked about that text message. She said, I would say that loving freak-offs were just words at that point. Dave, I wonder what you make of the defense going through these text messages, trying to paint a picture of cohesiveness and even agreement over these sexual encounters that the prosecution is saying were coerced.
I definitely think the defense has won some points, because although the prosecution tried to take the sting out of some of this by showing that she may have texted Diddy that she liked freak-offs, but at some point this was force, fraud, or coercion, that it was against her will, and she was just trying to please a man she loved, an unrequited love. But still, jurors are human beings, and when they see this...
Outside the courthouse, emotions run high. Protesters, paparazzi, and influencers flood the streets. Some chant for justice, holding signs with Cassie's name. Others claim this is a takedown, a calculated attack on a powerful black mogul. Social media is on fire, with hashtags like Stand with Cassie and Justice for Diddy trending globally. Back inside, the judge's frustration is growing, with the defense struggling to stay within the tightened schedule. Objections fly. Every word Cassie speaks is scrutinized by lawyers, the jury, and the world watching through courtroom sketches and secondhand updates.
They're going to cast some doubts, have some doubts in their minds over whether this was consensual. Now, the prosecution gets a chance to rehabilitate the witness later, and that's when Cassie can say, you know, I said what I said, but you can see by my actions, by his actions, that this wasn't consensual. I mean, he beat me up. He forced me to do things against my will. Even if I was into it at the beginning just to please him, it doesn't mean that I consented the whole way through. But, you know, jurors are going to come at this from their own life experiences with freak-offs or something foreign, unique, weird. And if they think that Cassie at some point was part of it willingly, yeah, that's going to be really bad for the prosecution.
Richard, when she says that I love our freak-offs when we both want it, I mean, when we both want it, inherent in that is that sometimes she didn't. And I wonder what the jury might think about that.